This man who entered your life as a stranger is actually your dad, but I guess it happens probably more often than we realize.
You're watching the Spotlight Network, starring Hollywood's newsman, Logan Crawford.
They now believe a single member.
He works with TV and film legends. And now, Logan's shining the spotlight on the world's top emerging authors and creators.
International were abducted.
This is Spotlight with Logan Crawford, streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV.
What if the worst moment of your childhood followed you everywhere, even into the town that should have protected you? I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're talking with a terrific author. Her name is Dorothy Topfer, and she has penned a book you're just going to love. It is called Jodie Wise Nails It, a coming-of-age story. It is a mystery-driven coming-of-age novel about trauma, suspicion, family secrets, and one woman's search for the truth. Set in Tasmania, this is a story of survival, identity, and the murder mystery that changes Jodie's life forever. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at Prime 7 Media for helping us put her on TV today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. Dorothy, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is a great privilege.
Oh, it's a great privilege to have you on the show. Your book is powerful. It opens up with the line, "Growing up can be murder." What inspired this coming-of-age drama and murder mystery set together?
Well, first of all, I started with the setting. I knew where I wanted to write it. And then I thought, I wanted to write a mystery. I hadn't written mysteries before. And I wanted to write something about a trauma that follows you through life. An embedded trauma, I guess you'd call it these days. And somehow one thing led to another. I wanted to write about a young girl. I wanted to write about how she was a bit of a loner and an offsider because her mum was a single parent raising her in poverty in a rural location back in the 80s. So, yeah, that's how it started. And then one thing led to another. And the story took over.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about Jodie when readers first meet her before the trauma changes everything.
She is 12 years old. Jodie lives in a very small rural village. Her mum, Jodie doesn't know her father. She only knows her mother and her grandparents, and her very best friend is her little dog, Pepper. And Pepper is with her everywhere. Her grandparents are very nurturing, which is just as well, because her mother isn't. And there is a friend at school, only one friend at school, because she doesn't tend to attract friends. She's a bit of a loner. She has one skill, running, so the sports teacher thinks she's fantastic. But that's her. It's a simple life.
Yeah.
And
the death of Jodie's mother becomes a defining event of her life. Talk to us about writing that kind of emotional shock through a teenager's eyes.
well, it was hard, actually. She's 15 by then. We met Jodie at 12. She's now 15 when her mother is murdered. And at the start, it's a night like any other. She goes to bed. Her mum's out because her mum's often out. And she hears screaming and yelling. And her little dog, Pepper, races out to, defend the household. And sadly, Pepper gets hurled away and breaks his neck. Very sorry. That was the hardest thing to write. But I am an animal lover. And I really didn't want Pepper to be killed, and yet I knew for Jodie to be moved away from the village, there had to be nothing there to keep her there. And without giving too much away, she, against her will, her father appears and she's whisked off to a big sheep station in the Midlands of Tasmania, and she hates it. It's a different climate, people she doesn't know at all, but her grandparents have made her promise to stay there for the next 3 years until they can work out who killed her mother, because they're all suspects. I mean, that's usually the way it is, isn't it? family are suspect.
Yeah.
And she hates it, but she learns to love it, and
Yeah.
she grows up. So
Yeah.
that's it in a nutshell. Yeah.
It's a lot for a teenager to handle. She's only 15 years old, as you mentioned, and the town begins to suspect her. Talk to us a little bit about what that public judgment does to her sense of identity.
I think because she's always been an outsider, I don't think it resonates as much with her as it does on her grandparents, because they're pillars of society and respectable elderly people, and they're curious and also very protective of their granddaughter. So the idea of getting her away somewhere safe, because they didn't know if she would be next, is really important to them. Jodie, I think, is in a bit of a fog of grief. And although she resents it and objects to it, she doesn't really fight it too much, I think, because she's lost her little dog. And at 15, that's a major trauma too.
Yeah.
Losing her mother, everyone tells her she should be really upset about that, but she's been really upset about her mother all her life. The mother has been very unpredictable. And so that trauma, apart from the event and the actual trauma of the murder, probably all her grief was going to the dog. She's only a little kid after all. And that is how I played it. And then she gets sent away, and she's a bit like Sleeping Beauty for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
She's on this isolated farm, away from everything.
Yeah.
So,
You said Jodie's story in 1978, which is a year that's near and dear to my heart. I was 16 years old in 1978. So I think about the late 1970s a lot. It was a great time when you were coming of age in that era. And I wouldn't have wanted to come of age in any other era than the late 70s. It was a great time. Why did you happen to choose 1978?
well, a very simple reason. I wanted it to be before mobile phones. Because I wanted Jodie to be uncontactable except by the landline. And I also wanted her to write letters to her grandparents and to her cousin Bonnie. So there's a chapter in the book where she's just writing letters, bemoaning her fate and writing from this sheep property. And with the phone, I use phones in other stories, but for some reason I felt the letters gave us a real view of her personality. And so the readers will see these letters, and I hope they really understand what she's going through when she writes it down.
Yeah. Yeah. I think setting a story in the 70s or 80s, or like you said, any time before the mobile phone is a great idea, because the digital age visually is boring compared to what it was like when you had to, actually check a book out of the library, actually had to answer a physical phone, and actually had to have conversations with people. All that's done like this nowadays, without a doubt. Let me ask you this. Have you envisioned the story as a movie?
You could easily, because one of the main characters in the story is the scenery, the countryside, and the animals. There's a beautiful horse in the book called Topfer. And it's funny you ask that, because some of my other books I have actually visualized before I start writing them. So one of my books, where is it? I've got a book by a young lawyer. Here it is. This one, The Bean. I actually visualised the opening scene before I even wrote it. And quite often when I'm writing them, I see it before I put pen to paper. Fingers to keyboard, actually.
Yeah, I think it would be a great movie, or TV series. I think you got great characters, great settings, great conflicts, and a wonderful story. So, Hollywood, if you're listening, here's a book that's ready to go. Charlie Wise enters the story as a stranger, and Jodie, of course, makes a big discovery about Charlie. Talk to us about how that revelation shapes her world.
Initially, she's quite cranky. She's cross. This person says he is her father, but she doesn't know. she's never seen a photo of him even, because we learned that he took the photos when he left the family, and her grandparents never mentioned him. And so she is a bit like, how do I know you're my father? And then it becomes clear that he is, and he pulls out all the photos and tells her the story of his relationship with her mother. And she comes to see that he's actually a nice person.
Yeah, it would be quite a discovery to make that this man who entered your life as a stranger is actually your dad. But I guess it happens probably more often than we realize. Will, Jodie's childhood friend, re-enters her life. Talk to us about that relationship and what it reveals about who she was and who she's becoming.
Okay, well, when she was 12, he was her buddy. He raced her in the running races. She usually came first, but he was close behind. So they were kind of competitive. They used to walk home from school every day. He got on with her grandparents. He thought her mother was a bit weird. And in a small village, well, everyone knows everyone. So they were buddies. And then when she was sent away, she never heard from him. He, later on, we're told that her grandparents told him not to make contact, but she needed to be away to keep her safe, and best she has no contact. So when she comes back to the village and runs into him, Jodie's really cross. Because Will's saying, "Oh, it's lovely to see you. Where have you been? It's been so long." But she's like, "Well, you've had no contact with me."
Yeah.
So they have a few things to iron out, sort out the relationship, but their friendship grows. It's leave it like that.
Yeah, absolutely. The title of the book says Jodie nails it. What does that phrase mean in the context of her journey?
Well, I think it means that she sorts out her life. I struggled to think of the right title, and then I thought of that, which is a bit like slang, I guess, isn't it? But it just means Jodie Wise triumphs, Jodie Wise succeeds in sorting out her life. But that sounds really boring.
Yeah. Nails it is strong. I like that. Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. From the beginning, did you know who the murderer would be, or did that unfold as you wrote it?
I think, no, it unfolded. I needed it to be a neat ending. I needed to tie, as they say, tie all the ends together. And then as I worked my way through, I thought, yes, that's the outcome. And that often happens. I get halfway through a book, and then I work out, oh yes, I know I want this one to end.
Yeah.
It's a bit of the characters, I guess, taking over the story.
Yeah, the story kind of takes on a life of its own when you're creating it, right? And it goes its own natural, organic paths. And yeah, wonderful. Before we leave you today, let me ask you this. When readers finish reading Jodie Wise Nails It, what do you hope stays with them about Jodie's courage and resilience?
That things will sort themselves out, I think. And when you read the passage of the story, she is pushed along and she drifts along, and she has learnings from the other characters. I hope that gives my reader confidence just to go with the flow, let things reveal themselves. Things will sort themselves out one way or the other. Have confidence in yourself, and I think that's what Jodie does as she grows up. She starts to believe in herself and believe in the people that are around her. And family. Family in this book, like all my books, is very important. Her relationship with Bonnie, I think, is a key relationship in the book. Although at the start, she thinks Bonnie is really weird. But they come to be very close. Is that right?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a great message, and it's a great values for people to take away from the book. One more question for you. Is there going to be a sequel, or what's next for you as a writer?
No, I hadn't thought of a sequel. No, I'm writing another story now. about another young woman, although she's 32, yes, Georgie. And that also features, well, it's not quite the same as Jodie Wise, but it is an old house. I'm putting a ghost in this one too because I like a ghost. And again, it's a bit, we would all love someone to leave us a fantastic mansion, wouldn't we? Really, it would be great. And Georgie inherits a mansion from her estranged father, who she hasn't seen since she was 12. And she has mixed feelings about that, especially when she discovers there's a condition attached to the inheritance. And does she want to accept it?
Wonderful.
So that's the story.
It's got the makings of a wonderful story. We're looking forward to that. In the meantime, folks, you can enjoy this wonderful book that we've been talking about today. It is called Jodie Wise Nails It, a coming-of-age story. It is the story of a 15-year-old named Jodie Wise, whose life is shattered after her mother's murder and the suspicion that follows her in a small Tasmanian town. Through trauma, exile, family revelations, friendship, and the search for justice, Jodie's return home finally sets events in motion that reveal the truth. Dorothy, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Logan.
Pleasure's been all mine. I appreciate your time, your insight, and your wonderful talent. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time.